Part 27. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 261. The wolf that came out was, of course, the only one left in the wild in the zoo, Comrade Grey Fang. Just as Su Ming had originally hoped, after a period of wild survival training, the little furry little guy who could barely walk had now turned into a big bad wolf with sharp claws and claws that would make anyone jump when they saw it. If we were in the city, there might still be many people who would mistake Grey Fang for a dog and not pay too much attention to it. But this is a zoo, or the back of the zoo. Everyone's first reaction is, the big bad wolf is coming. Humans are group animals. If a person sees a wolf, he will definitely be scared to death. But dozens of people gather together to encourage each other. After seeing Grey Fang come out, although they are a little panicked, they are more curious. The crowd roared and retreated a lot, but they were not too panicked. Seeing a big bad wolf in the wild is a rare experience. Immediately afterwards, a large group of various pet dogs slowly walked out from various woods and surrounded the entire mountain top of Fox Immortal. Although the dogs have the appearance of pet dogs, their eyes are cold, looking at the tourists eagerly from a distance. Grey Fang's eyes were just cold, but the eyes of the other dogs were also full of danger. It seems that it will pounce at any time and tear the humans in front of it into pieces. Lao Lin promptly came forward to explain, "Dear tourists and friends, these dogs are the stray dogs rescued by the zoo last time and have been successfully released into the wild. Don't be afraid, everyone, these dogs are the protectors of the Fox Immortal, responsible for protecting the vast swaths of foxes in their homes. As long as everyone visits the park in a civilized manner, there won't be any danger." In addition to superstitious issues, Su Ming also considered safety issues. The fox home is connected to the zoo, but it is not completely closed. People with malicious intentions must be prevented from stealing the little foxes. In addition to those with truly malicious intentions, we must also prevent uncivilized tourists from taking away the little foxes when they see them having fun. The broad-eared fox is not very big, so if it is stuffed into a bag, it may not be noticed. No way. Aren't dogs and wolves the natural enemies of foxes? Someone in the crowd asked in shock. A dog is nosy when it comes to catching a mouse, but it is natural for a dog to catch a fox and a wolf to eat a fox. Lao Lin chuckled, "Don't forget, this is a zoo. Okay, tourists and friends, that's it for today, please go back." Under the attention gift of the dogs, the tourists filed down the mountain along a path. After the tourists went down the mountain, Su Ming appeared on the hillside. Lao Lin briefly reported today's details to Su Ming. Su Ming nodded slightly while listening. It seems that Fox Home is still a very popular new attraction. On the one hand, it is due to the creativity of the home, and on the other hand, it is related to the broad-eared fox. Due to their own characteristics, these little guys are not a specialty of China and are rarely seen in other zoos. The two big ears that catch the wind are so cute. If you put such a cute little thing in a cage, you will probably be scolded to death by tourists. Remember, you must not accept any money for incense. Su Ming pointed to an old tree dozens of meters away on the hillside of Fox's home, and said, "If anyone really wants to make a wish, let them go to that tree to make a wish." Halfway up the mountain, there is a big tree that can be hugged by at least 4 or 5 people. It is said to be 600 or 700 years old. In the past, when there were no fox homes, this old tree was a scenic spot on the hillside and the only scenic spot in the back mountain. I don't know who was the first to hang a red wishing string on the tree. Gradually, this old tree became a famous wishing tree in Yangchuan City. There are still some faded red wishing charms floating on the branches. The bark of the tree near the ground is quite damaged. The person who hung the wishing charms tried to climb up and step on it. This old tree has witnessed hundreds of years of history. We just took this opportunity to repair and protect it. We can make wishes, but we cannot climb up the tree by stepping on it. Leader, I suggest collecting some tickets as soon as possible. Lao Lin pointed at the fox home and said, otherwise it will be too expensive to maintain here. Although most tourists are relatively civilized, the fox's home is too exquisite. Various small buildings will be damaged if you don't pay attention. By the end of the day, 1/3 of the fence fell down, and 2 small villas were also crowded. Broken. In this way, we will set up a small toll point on the road starting tomorrow. Tickets do not need to be charged too much. First, each person will charge 5 yuan. Children under 1 meter and seniors over 60 years old are free of charge. The money earned will be used for infrastructure construction, Su Ming said. 5 yuan? Too little, Lao Lin opened his eyes wide. How can there be a $5 attraction these days? The tickets for the few parks in Yangchuan City that only have flowers and plants cost 10 yuan. Zoos in other cities also have special animal houses, such as python gardens, crocodile ponds, etc. If they charge separately, they cost at least 20 yuan. Get started. The construction of Fox Home has not been completed yet. We need to get into the habit of charging first. It will not be too late to raise the fees in the future. Su Ming looked at the empty hillside. He had a clear plan for this hilltop to build a paradise with Fox Home as the core. Everything has just started now, so of course it's not easy to charge high fees all at once. In the future, when everything is completed, the price will naturally be increased, or the money will be put into the overall entrance fee to the zoo, but now, it would be too shameful to charge 20 or 30 just for the fox home. The top priority now is to arrange a work schedule for the broad-eared foxes. It was impossible for Su Ming to feed all the animals for free. Even if he had the heart, he didn't have the ability. Even the guys in the zoo have to support themselves through exhibitions. Let alone animals, even human friends, Su Ming could not feed anyone in vain. For example, for Wang Hao, Su Ming could only provide him with a way to improve his life instead of giving him money directly. In the end, it was still up to Wang Hao to work hard himself. But having said that, animals are animals after all, and we cannot oppress them as coolies just to make some money. Even if it is inhumane, it is not necessary. Today is the hardest day for the big-eared thief, because his room is right opposite the gate of the fox's home, and the most tourists pass by here. Not only the big-eared thief, but also the remaining big-eared foxes were lying feebly in their small rooms. Big-eared thief, you can't die, you can't die, Su Ming squatted in front of the big-eared thief's room, wagging his big ears half-jokingly. The big-eared thief weakly lowered his head, dragged his tail, and his ears lay softly on the back of his head. He stuck out his pink tongue at Su Ming. The fur all over his body had lost its luster. He looked very tired. A reasonable shift must be arranged to allow each big-eared fox to have sufficient rest and playtime. A big-eared fox can only work for a few hours a week. Most of the rest of the time, they should be left alone. According to their nature, let them go to the wild activities, or simply close part of the small villa in turn every day and let them rest at home. There are enough big-eared foxes, more than 180 of them, both male and female. The team will definitely continue to grow in the future, so scheduling will be easy. Old Lin Xiaolin, keep part of the ticket money from now on. In addition to the standard food rations provided by the park, buy them some food to improve their lives. Oh, don't buy milk. Many foxes are lactose intolerant and will die easily after eating. The remaining money will be handed over to Peng Shui's accountant for the time being, and will be placed in the entertainment company's account first. After a while, a semi-open fox fairy temple or something will be built here, and then a path leading to the bottom of the mountain will be built. Tourists from the province walk on wild roads every day, kicking in mud. I told old Lin Xiaolin about the next thing. After Xiaolin finished memorizing it, he seemed to have something to say, but he hesitated. Su Ming saw that something wasn't right about his expression, so he stopped talking and nodded to Xiaolin, indicating that he would speak if he had anything to say. "You little brat, why are you pretending to be a grandson? If you have anything to say, just say it." Laolin hugged his head and gave Xiaolin a shudder. He glared and said, "The leader's time is so tight, I don't have time to waste time with you." Seeing old Lin like this, Su Ming chuckled, thinking that these uncle and nephew were also interesting. They get along day and night. Old Lin must know what Xiaolin wants to say. It seems that he is asking for something. Maybe Laolin not only knew about it, but also wanted to mention it to himself, but he was older and embarrassed to say this. Xiaolin is a young man. If he opens his mouth, even if he refuses, things will not become deadlocked. A little thing. Xiaolin scratched his head and said with a smile, "Well, I recently fell in love with someone." "Well, that's a good thing," Su Ming nodded and motioned for him to continue. "My partner is from out of town. If he comes to Yangchuan City, he hasn't found a job yet," Xiaolin said calmly. As expected, Laolin knew the situation, so he interrupted and briefly said that Xiaolin's partner was also from Changping County, and Xiaolin wanted to come to Yangchuan City, but he couldn't find a suitable job for a while. Strictly speaking, you cannot say that you cannot find a job. The economy is developing so fast, and there is a huge demand for employment in all walks of life. As long as you are not greedy and not lazy, you can always support yourself. You can go to restaurants to serve dishes, work as greeters, waiters, etc. Work is everywhere. Of course, the money paid for this type of work is too little, only about 2,000 a month. Old Lin has said this, but Su Ming still doesn't know what he means. The salaries of several companies under Su Ming are not high, but they are still in the early 3,000s, and the work is relatively easy and free. Not to mention Xiaolin and others who came to the city to work, even college students who have just graduated are rushing to join. After pondering for a while, he said, "Let's do this. Let your partner come to Yangchuan and forget about the fishing company. There is manual work there, so it is not suitable to go to a woman's house. Go to the entertainment company and report to Mr. Wang." Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 262. Xiaolin's relationship reminded Su Ming that now that the company is gradually expanding, as a boss, he should sometimes care about the families and personal issues of employees. A humane unit is often more likely to retain people and have more cohesion. "I said the leader can solve it. Remember, go to the leader for trouble in the future." Laolin pretended to be angry and glared at Xiaolin, then said with a smile on his face, "Leader, you are so worried. If there is anything that needs to be spent, I will pay." Su Ming rolled his eyes and said speechlessly, "I am the biggest leader of the company." "I agree. What else is there to spend?" He stood up and patted Xiaolin on the shoulder. "Your family working hard here is the biggest reward for me. How long does it take for a piece of news to spread in a medium-sized city with a population of 5 or 6 million? If it were in ancient times, it might take a few days or even a month. But these days, the information network is so developed. Facts have proved that in just one day, almost the entire Yangchuan city knew about the group of fox immortals in the zoo. The first thing that came out was, of course, the internet. Yangchuan Forum is the dynamic weather vane of Yangchuan City. As long as people in Yangchuan City often surf the internet, they will know this forum. Su Ming has promoted it on this forum more than once before. Today, when national BBS forums are gradually dying out, Yangchuan Forum, a forum with a strong local flavor, is surviving better and better. Fortunately, as long as the product quality is good, there will always be running water. That afternoon, someone posted a post about the Fox Ferry on the forum. A few hours later, the number of clicks and comments had broken through the sky, and it directly rushed to the most prominent hot topic of the day on the forum homepage. Whether you believe it or not, I am confused anyway. The post was made by a member who told about his strange journey in the zoo today. I heard that the zoo had a new alligator, so I drove to see the alligator early in the morning. After coming out of the aquarium, wait, let me complain first, alligators are obviously reptiles, why are they in the aquarium? Getting back to the point, I saw a strange sign fox home, and then the tourist began a journey full of fantasy and confusion. Below are more than a dozen photos. In the photos, little foxes wearing human clothes and with big ears, facing the camera, made all kinds of human movements, pouting, scratching their ears, and praying with their hands together, just like living little people. Is this Yangchuan Zoo? I go there often. There are a few red foxes, but I've never seen a fox like this. Is this a fox? It looks like a cross between a rabbit and a mouse. Are these pictures photoshopped? There are so many lizards. They look super cute. Tell me the truth, where did you take these pictures? You don't know. This is a white-eared fox, a mini fox. I went there too. The guy at the door actually played rock paper scissors with me. Wow, I laughed my ass off. This idiot can only make buns. My mom said that foxes are very spiritual, but the zoo said they won't let you worship. I secretly made a wish in my heart, hoping that my confession would be successful. I have a feeling that these little foxes seem to understand what people say. The most amazing thing is the fox home itself. It's like an ancient and mysterious village hidden in the mountains. It reminds me of Taoyuanming. In the evening, there were several more posts about the fox home in the forum, and they were all discussed quite hotly. People's living conditions are generally better now, especially young people, who are more loving. The fennec fox is cute, and after putting on small clothes and acting like a human, it is even more interesting. Of course, according to the tradition of the internet world, it is necessary to go off topic. So after some posts, the discussion began to shift from the fennec fox itself to the people behind the fennec fox. A netizen's words have become a classic: there are capable people in the zoo. After all, the fennec fox is a wild animal. It can be so human and more well-trained than the animals in the circus. There must be masters in the zoo. The discussion on the internet was in full swing, and it was also wildly circulated in WeChat moments. Even Su Ming found someone posting a video of the fox's home in his moments and several group chats. In the university group. Zoo, isn't that where Su Ming works? Su Ming, come out, is there really a fox fairy in your zoo? Wang Hao answered from below, of course there is, it's in the back mountain. But let me correct one thing, it's not a fairy. Don't cheat me and me. Boss Wang, I heard you set up an entertainment company, do you have any hidden rules with female stars? He went off track again. Bullshit, this is the zoo entertainment company, okay, what female stars do you have hidden rules with? Besides, I'm just a general manager, if anyone wants to have a secret, it's Chairman Su who should have it. Su Ming is the boss behind the scenes, there was a string of exclamation marks behind it. Although everyone knows that Su Ming is doing well now, and even has contacts with big stars in Hong Kong, after all, he has only graduated for more than half a year, and Su Ming is not very ostentatious. He usually appears in front of everyone as a zoo employee, so everyone's impression of him is still stuck on the young classmate in college who was not very well off but worked very hard. Wang Hao has always appeared as a second-generation official, especially since Wang Hao's father is a local leader in Yangchuan City, and he is closer to everyone's life. It is normal for Su Ming to hang out with Wang Hao, but it is inevitable that people will be surprised if it is the other way around. The few people in the class who found the best jobs at the beginning are now just getting a salary of less than 10,000 yuan a month. There is no comparison with Wang Hao who does business. Wang Hao does business, and it is a business like a zoo. Everyone can understand that his father is the leader in charge of this area in the city, and he has a natural advantage. So according to common sense, everyone thought that Wang Hao's backer was actually his father Wang Jianxi, and Su Ming relied on Wang Hao to get to the top, but no one expected that the real situation was a big reversal, and Su Ming was the real boss. Su Ming typed a few words casually, "It's just a small company, making some pocket money. This is really not pretending. Now this entertainment company, all the income from all aspects is added together, and the annual net profit is only about 2 million. The scale is indeed very small, and for his overall industry, it is just pocket money. No, we have to treat. Yes, Mr. Su, Mr. Wang, treat. Keep the formation," everyone was cheering. Mr. Su, treat. Mr. Wang, treat. Mr. Su, treat. Mr. Wang, treat. A long string of words followed, and Su Ming typed a few words, "When I'm done with this busy period, I'll invite everyone to get together, any place you want." To be honest, as he has seen more and more, and his business has grown bigger and bigger, Su Ming now feels that there is a little distance between him and his college classmates. In his opinion, most of his classmates have not changed much since school, and they are still like half-grown children. On the contrary, he is getting closer and closer to mature people like Zhao Yun and director Song. People grow up gradually. In different environments and different circumstances, some people grow fast, and some grow slowly. Time will gradually widen the distance between the same people at the beginning, which not only refers to wealth, but also mentality. If Wang Hao had not intended to run a cruise ship with him, he would probably have had this feeling with Wang Hao. Fortunately, Wang Hao had a high starting point and had seen a lot of the world in the past 6 months, and Nangong Yan had also been well trained in places like TV stations, so they were able to talk to each other. The next day, the fox's video was posted on several large websites. The fox, wearing traditional Chinese clothing, living in a mysterious village in the mountains, and looking like a human but very cartoonish, was very attractive. In one day, the number of clicks increased sharply. Some people even climbed over the firewall and posted these videos on foreign social media such as YouTube and Facebook, which is said to have attracted a lot of attention. Su Ming noticed that not only the fox video rushed to the click list, but the previous video of riding a fish still had a high number of clicks. Although it had been too long and had long been off the homepage's click list, if you open the category, you can still find a large number of videos of riding a fish, including the first one Su Ming rode a fish, and the videos of tourists riding fish in the zoo later. He typed the words Yang Chuan Zoo in the search bar and hit enter. Hundreds of videos of the zoo were displayed below. They were all taken by tourists when they visited the zoo. Alligators, giant salamanders, grass mud horses, etc. were all among them, and the number of clicks and comments was not low. Su Ming suddenly had an idea. Since so many people like to watch animal videos, why not open a Weibo account to publish information about zoo animals and even take the initiative to upload some videos? As long as there are enough fans, you don't have to rely entirely on other media when you want to promote in the future. You can take the initiative in your own hands. Now the whole country is engaged in information construction, and zoos are no exception. Like most public institutions and government units, zoos have their own official websites and Weibo accounts. However, the zoo's website is just a show, an empty shell. The technology is outdated, the page is ugly, the interactivity is very poor, the website information is not updated in time, and it is all outdated information and empty cliches. The Weibo account is not deliberately operated, and sometimes it can't send a message in a month, so the number of visits and fans is very low. Without destruction, there is no construction. Let's take advantage of the reform and stop using the official Weibo account. Su Ming thought about it and casually registered an account called Daowen Yuk and wrote in the information, Yang Chuan City Zoo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 263. In the internet age, especially the current era of fan economy, the publicity role a Weibo account with a huge number of fans can play is absolutely inestimable. A so-called public celebrity or Big V can create huge economic benefits with hundreds of thousands of fans. The Daowen interesting account will be positioned in the future to focus on zoo animals and various interesting entertainment projects. Occasionally, it may also advertise other industries of swimming, such as future wineries, so there is no need to use certain methods like some unscrupulous public figures publish false statements and attract attention through sensationalism. In a way, the more influential this Weibo account will be in the future, the more conducive it will be to social harmony, people's family happiness, happy life, and full of positive energy. This newly registered Weibo account has no fans yet. Su Ming was too lazy to post advertisements elsewhere for the time being. The Weibo account needed to be carefully managed. It could not be achieved by just posting small advertisements in a few forums or leaving comments under popular posts. In a large conference room in the city government, Director Song, Wang Jianxi, and several leaders of relevant city departments have been discussing the specific plan for the zoo's restructuring in the past few days. As the current leader of the zoo, Lao Song is of course trying his best to strive for better conditions for the zoo to facilitate its future development. As representatives of the government, several other leaders considered the issue from the opposite perspective. The zoo used to be within the system and the government would take care of it. Now it is out of the system. Of course, the less we can take away, the better. This is not for personal gain. The more intense the quarrel between the two parties is, the more it shows that they are both very responsible people. If there is a group of irresponsible people, everyone is good to me, and it seems that they are in harmony, but it will cause huge losses to the national property and the future of the zoo. In the past few days, the two sides have been quarreling with each other, arguing with each other, and even resorting to arrogance. They have made stringent demands one by one, and have not given up an inch of ground, all trying to maximize the benefits from it. Under this situation, Wang Jianxi, as a leading government cadre, cannot openly speak for the zoo. Sometimes when the two sides are talking red-faced and reach an impasse, or the negotiation is difficult, they will temporarily adjourn the meeting to drink tea, chat, watch TV, etc., to ease the tension. Today's topic is about the plan to return part of the fixed assets of the zoo. In the zoo, everything from pavilions, woods, and lawns to as small as a stone bench and a lighting lamp on the roadside are all invested and constructed by the state. After the restructuring, these assets are considered to belong to the zoo, and the income generated is also on the zoo's account rather than turned over to the state. Therefore, these assets must be converted into money and returned to the state. Of course, this type of asset is not a machine, it does not directly produce value, and it has been used for many years, so the discount is very low. But the zoo is too big to hold, and the total amount adds up to a huge number. The question now is whether to pay it in one lump sum or to pay it back year by year. If it is to be returned year by year, it should be divided into several years and whether interest should be charged and other details. The discussion is deadlocked here. How is it possible to return it all at once? Old Lu, what you said is that you are deliberately watching the zoo collapse. Despite Dean Song's usual smile, when it came to the future development of the zoo, he refused to give in and was very difficult to speak. He slammed the table and said angrily. Director Lu on the opposite side glared, "Old Song, what did you say? How could I deliberately watch the zoo collapse? If the zoo collapses, what good will I gain?" Dean Song snorted and said displeasedly, "The first year of the restructuring is the most difficult year for the zoo. It's just that you don't support us financially, but you are tearing us down and asking us to return everything at once. How can the zoo have anything, so much money? Okay, even if I can raise this large amount of money, even if I can borrow the money, I can return all the working capital to the government, and the zoo will not have a dime on its account, and it will be full of debts. How can you continue to run the business? Don't you want to see the zoo collapse? Not to be outdone, old Lou boasted and glared, why do we need to reform? It is to reduce the burden on the government, optimize resource allocation, and comply with the market economy. The fittest will survive, and those who cannot adapt will be eliminated by the market. Your zoo cannot continue to operate and will go bankrupt. That is the problem of the zoo's management, and other companies will naturally take over. To put it bluntly, after the restructuring, the government does not care about the life and death of your zoo, but no matter what, the original state-owned assets cannot be lost like this. Sitting next to old Lou was a relatively young cotter, whose position seemed to be lower than that of old Lou. When old Lou was tough, he was soft. He coughed and said with a distressed look, Director Song, you are also an old comrade. In the past years of our country's economic reform, how many precious state-owned assets have been lost in vain with just 3 pennies instead of 2 pennies? It is sad. Xiao He, please stop talking to me like a bureaucracy. Is that what I meant? Dean Song was old and strong, and directly pushed back what this guy said. The people present are all party members and cotters, and they are all leaders in charge of one party. Now it is a bit boring to have a meeting and discuss in private instead of in front of the media and the masses, and to speak in an official tone. After being scolded by Lao Song, Xiao He also smiled and said nothing. Lao Song snorted and softened his tone, it's not that I don't understand what Xiao He said. I am also an old comrade. Of course I will not just watch the loss of state-owned assets. But everyone must also think about the purpose of our restructuring. It is right for the government to reduce its burden and leave some unnecessary baggage to the market. However, the ultimate goal is to hope that the zoo can operate well, generate tax revenue to feed back the government's finances, enrich people's lives, and prosper the market economy. This is by no means the case. Are you talking about letting the zoo close down? If it is just to shed the burden and not seek development, then there is no need to restructure. All zoos, parks, and public institutions can just close down, and there will be no need for government financial funding in the future. Of course not, Wang Jianxi laughed, took a sip of tea and said, don't get excited, Lao Song, please speak slowly. This restructuring meeting was originally supposed to be chaired by Vice Mayor Sunday. The old man was old and in poor health and did not attend. Wang Jianxi chaired it on his behalf. Director Song nodded, took 2 sips of tea, and then continued, Old Lou, I understand your financial difficulties, and I hope you can understand us. Give the zoo a buffer for a period of time, and return it year by year, without giving less. If you pay a dime, you should calculate the interest according to the bank. Seeing Dean Song's insistence that the conversation could not continue without retreating, old Lou also hesitated a little. You are right, but what if the zoo collapses? Who should I ask for the money? Old Lou, what you said is just nonsense, right? Then what if I win a 100 million lottery ticket and pay back the money in the blink of an eye? Director Song's words are actually a bit arrogant. According to the existing probability statistics, the chance of the zoo going bankrupt after restructuring is many times higher than the chance of winning the 100 million grand prize. Lao Liu's hypothesis is completely possible, but Director Song's hypothesis is basically impossible. When Lao Song said this, he was showing off his old face. Although the total amount of money is the same for the one-time repayment and the yearly repayment, and interest is even required for the yearly repayment, they have absolutely different meanings for the zoo's financial pressure. The former is too stressful and can drain the zoo's finances in one fell swoop, while the latter can allow the zoo to make a smooth transition. In Lao Song's view, this negotiation was the last thing he could do for the zoo. This is his last battle, he must fight well. Both sides held it in their hands and refused to speak again. Seeing that the conversation was deadlocked again, Wang Jianxi was not in a hurry and smiled, "Let's take a rest and watch TV. Then, ask the waiter to change some tea leaves." Wang Jianxi has seen this kind of scene many times. When some large state-owned enterprises were restructured, the scene was much more heated than now. There were people throwing glasses in the conference room and pointing their noses and cursing. The waiter came in to change the tea leaves and water, and turned on the large LCD TV screen in the conference room. By coincidence, the picture on the screen happened to be the new pillar of Yangchuan City TV station, an outstanding young reporter, interviewing Su Ming, an outstanding employee of the zoo. Looking at the surrounding environment, it should be on the mountain behind the zoo. The surrounding area is full of tourists. What is this? A fox? Why are they all dressed like villains? Director Lu looked at the TV screen and was stunned. Director Song said lukewarmly, "You don't care whether it's a fox or a villain, as long as it can make a profit for the zoo, that's a good thing." The interview sound on the TV rang in the conference room. "Chief Su, the fox home at the back of the zoo has already attracted a lot of attention in less than 3 days since its opening. What do you think is the reason for this?" Su Ming's current position is the section chief of the zoo's Special Coordination Department. This department was established after Su Ming came. It sounds like a spy, but it is actually the department responsible for managing all animals and all emergencies. Su Ming smiled faintly at the camera and said, "I think this is a manifestation of social harmony. Our material life is constantly enriched. There is a harmonious relationship between people and nature. People's living conditions are better. It requires to achieve better spiritual enjoyment and leisure life. The zoo can achieve certain results by following this trend. Of course, it is also inseparable from these cute broad-eared foxes. Speaking of the broad-eared fox, I would like to ask a question that all tourists and TV viewers want to know." Nangongyan raised the corner of her mouth slightly, showed a naughty smile to the camera, and asked Su Ming, "These little foxes are very humane and can interact simply with humans. Are they specially trained by the zoo?" Everyone knows that in China, there are many magical legends about foxes, and there is also a folk saying about fox fairies. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 264. Haha, this is the problem. Su Ming deliberately put it off and did not answer directly. Instead, he smiled mysteriously and said, "In fairy tales like Liaozai, there are many beautiful women who were transformed into vixens. In folklore, foxes are also extremely powerful. There are spiritual animals, and as far as I know, there are also some young men and women making wishes under the wishing tree not far away." Nangongyan was startled, thinking that Su Ming was going to talk nonsense. This was in front of the TV cameras. If he said some futile and superstitious words according to his unpredictable personality, it would not end well. Su Ming paused, then smiled at Nangongyan and said, "Actually, I think the reason why human beings are happy is not because every wish can be realized and every dream can come true, but because even after experiencing hardships and disappointment, we will still have beautiful dreams and wishes, and look forward to the future. Therefore, I think there is no need to investigate the legend like a scientific study." On the other side of the TV, on the back hill, Nangongyan and Su Ming were looking at each other face to face. She looked into Su Ming's eyes and suddenly felt that Su Ming's words were not just for the audience. "I also said it to myself." For some reason, Nangongyan felt her heart suddenly beat faster when she looked at Su Ming's face in the sun and the gentle smile hanging on it. Well, after all, he is a professional host. After being distracted for a moment, he immediately returned to the state, and then asked, "So in the future, will the zoo bring us more surprises?" Of course, in order to make it easier for everyone to grasp the latest news about the big-eared fox fairy, as well as the latest news about other animals in the zoo, and new entertainment projects and activities, we have specially registered a Weibo account. You can follow Weibo on shinai.com. No. Daowin Fun, all fans have the opportunity to participate in the lottery and win exclusive prizes for many star animals in the zoo, including broad-eared foxes. In the conference room, Wang Jianxi said to director Song with a smile, "Old Song, this young man Su Ming is really up to date. You are here to negotiate terms," and he was on the TV news right after that. "I'm here to give you a strong backing. This is like a negotiation between two countries. After the negotiation is successful, one country suddenly achieves great success in a certain field, and the representatives at the negotiating table become more confident. Hey, the kid is fooling around. Over the past 6 months, he has gone through all kinds of troubles, including boating, riding fish, and a lot of endangered animals. He even broke a Guinness record. Now he even built a paradise. Young man." Lao Song seemed to be speaking very modestly, but his tone and expression showed a sense of triumph. Wang Jianxi smiled at director Lu across from him and said, "Old Lu, let me see it this way. The zoo is doing well now. It seems that the risk of bankruptcy is not high. Do you think it is better to give in and just give the discounted payment? Pay it back in 15 years. 15 years. No, no. Lao Wang, are you kidding me?" Director Lu shook his head repeatedly, but momentum is very important in negotiations. This news was like an accelerant, which suddenly raised the momentum of the zoo. Old Lu had to make some concessions. He gritted his teeth and said, 8 years, no more. 8 years is enough, and the interest will be half of the bank's rate for the same period. Old Song, hey, okay. As the saying goes, take one step back and step back step by step. During the subsequent negotiations, Director Song took advantage of the victory and went to several cities in a row to obtain very good treatment for the zoo on several terms. After the TV station interview ended, the camera crew began to pack away the machines. Nangongyan said something to her colleagues at the TV station and sent them back first while she stayed here to play for a while. She came over and said to Su Ming, "Wait for me." After saying that, she hurried towards the woods behind. Hey, the forest is the territory of dogs, don't pee everywhere," Su Ming hurriedly chased after him. Dogs use the smell of urine to distinguish their territories in the forest. It seems inappropriate for Nangongyan to run in and urinate, right? If a dog thinks it's trying to grab territory, it wouldn't be good if it bites you. Nangongyan's face turned red with anger. "What are you talking nonsense about? Who told you that I was going there? I'm going to take off my makeup and change it." Oh, then keep your voice down and don't scream so loud." Su Ming was quite embarrassed, and you couldn't blame him. Most men would urinate when they went into the woods in the wild. Little did they know that women have one more option, removing makeup and changing it. It's not like I've never seen her take off her makeup. What's so shameful about being barefaced? Su Ming actually felt that Nangongyan looked better without makeup. "TCH, I'm just showing you my husband without makeup. Who am I? Can I show you my makeup without makeup?" "Wait." Nangongyan rolled her eyes, twisted her waist, and walked into the forest. Looking at Nangongyan's slim back, Su Ming couldn't laugh or cry. This girl was completely different now from when she was in school. She was so cool that she was so cool. But well. No, why did I switch to the small Xiao mode again? This is not good. After waiting for half an hour this time, Su Ming couldn't hold it in anymore and ran to the opposite forest to urinate. After returning, he waited for a while before Nangong leisurely walked out of the woods. Look at her face, the makeup is indeed different from before. When she was on camera just now, she put on professional makeup to make her face look thinner. It looked good on camera, but it looked a bit distorted in reality. Now she put on light makeup, and she looks much more comfortable. Su Ming felt that it was necessary to regain his masculinity. This little submissive was used to it, and it might be difficult to change it in the future. He glared and hooked his finger at Nangongyan from a distance. "Come on, I'll take you to play with foxes." Nangong rolled her eyes coquettishly, with an expression that she was too lazy to argue with you, then smiled, came up and naturally took Su Ming's arm, half hanging on his arm like a big koala, and with the other hand, he took out a bamboo tube as thick as a child's arm from his arms, and the bamboo tube was full of bamboo sticks. A stick tube for fortune telling. Su Ming was shocked and looked at her collar. "Huh? Such a big fortune stick, how did you hide it in your chest? Go away." Nangongyan pushed him and shook the fortune stick and said, "It is said that foxes are the most intelligent. I want a fox to tell my fortune and ask for a marriage." Su Ming was completely speechless. This is well prepared. She even brought her own fortune stick. I was going to reject Nangong. What a joke. You are the wife of a leader, maybe the future one, leading the feudal superstition. The problem is that the wife of a leader is specifically in charge of the leader. Even if she is the future wife of a leader, Su Ming's objection is invalid. I just don't know if the foxes will use the fortune stick to tell fortunes. Who would have thought that they really would? Nangongyan and Su Ming came to a small villa. Nangongyan fed the little fox a sour dried bayberry. The little fox squinted its eyes. Then Nangong shook the bamboo stick tube in his hand in front of the fox. There was a small hole under the bamboo stick tube. A stick fell out of the hole when he shook his hand. Nangong did it several times in a row, and the little fox really learned it. He looked cute, squinting a pair of narrow eyes, holding the bamboo stick tube with two paws, and shaking it seriously, even shaking his body, as if he was drunk and might fall at any time. Nangongyan was a little girl after all. Although she knew that things like asking for lots should not be taken seriously, she was still a little nervous when it was her turn. She handed the bamboo stick tube to the big-eared fox inside, put her hands together and prayed softly, Fox Fairy, you must bless me to draw a good lot." Wow, 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 Nangongyan stared at the bamboo stick tube closely. Snap! A lot fell out, and Nangongyan quickly picked it up to look at it. Her little mouth pouted as soon as she looked at it. Su Ming leaned over to take a look, and it was a winning lot. The lot read, "The spring waves are green under the sad bridge, and once the startled swan came to reflect its shadow." There is no need to interpret the lot specifically. Just looking at these two sentences makes people feel a little melancholy. I'm afraid it's not a good thing. Nangongyan is from the Chinese department. She sighed as she looked at the lot and said, "This was made by Lu Yu to mourn his late wife Tang Wan. When they were young, they were separated by feudal patriarchs. A few years later, he met Tang Wan by chance in Shen Garden. Unexpectedly, this meeting became a farewell forever, alas." "It doesn't count, come again," Su Ming interrupted on the side. "Well, come again. I don't believe I'm so unlucky." Nangongyan nodded, put the stick back into the tube, handed it to the skilled big-eared fox, then tapped the big-eared fox's wet little nose with her finger, and said threateningly, "I'll give you another chance." Although Nangongyan said this to the fox, Su Ming always felt as if she was warning himself, "Isn't this just an innocent victim? It's not my stick." The little fox continued to shake the stick, and after a few strokes, another one fell out. Su Ming picked up the stick first, and his face turned green when he saw it. "It's a bad sign." "It's fine if it's a bad sign, but what it says is very unpleasant, putting all the responsibility on the man. I am like Su Shan, and you are like a stone Buddha, and you have no heart." After Nangongyan finished reading, she suddenly snorted and glanced at Su Ming with a squint. "How about, the beauty of the Chinese department, can you translate it again?" Su Ming said with a dry laugh. "There is nothing to translate, just 8 words, fallen flowers have feelings, flowing water has no feelings. The woman is like Sushan, you can see it as soon as you raise your eyes, but this man is like the stone Buddha, cold and ruthless, Nangongyan said faintly. Sister, didn't we agree on 8 words? Su Ming took the lot without saying anything, stuffed it into the bucket, and said, come again, I don't believe it. Even if you calculate the probability, you can't always get a bad lot. Nangongyan's temper is sometimes quite stubborn. After drawing 2 very bad marriage lots in a row, she not only did not back down, but seemed to be fighting with the little fox fairy. Hwa wah wah, snap. Winning lot, if there is no separation and hatred in my eyes, I don't believe there are white hair in the world. Come again, Nangongyan gritted her teeth and stuffed the lot tube back. Hwa wah, snap. Bad lot, the curtain of fallen flowers in the yard is not rolled up, and the heartbreaking grass is far away. Come again, Nangongyan's eyes gradually narrowed. Hwa wah, pa. The fortune, love is a word without proof, don't waste your tears on the flowery paper. Come again, Nangongyan's eyes gradually narrowed, and she sneered with a fierce look in her eyes. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 265. It's almost killing me. I don't know what bad luck this girl has today. She drew 8 lots in a row, but she either got a good lot or a bad lot, and none of them were good words, but some nonsense like lovesickness, heartbreak, tears, and withered flowers. If she draws more, she will cry. It's not Nangongyan who will cry, but Su Ming. Because starting from the 3rd lot, every time she draws a bad lot, Nangongyan will pinch him hard with gritted teeth. It hurts so much. Stop, I know what's going on, Su Ming shouted quickly, rubbing his legs, and stopped Nangongyan from drawing the 9th lot. Why? Is it you who is playing tricks? Nangongyan's expression was ferocious. If there was a blower blowing her hair in the wind, she would be a living white-haired witch. How is that possible? This little fox must be too tired. Look, its little arms are shaking, and it can't even hold the lottery tube. Su Ming held the lottery tube tightly in his hand, and said with a smile, let's stop here today, another day, wait until the little fox recovers its spirits before coming back. No, I don't believe it. Am I a star of bad luck, destined to be unlucky? If she drew a bad lottery once or twice, Nangongyan could still laugh it off, but she was really angry after drawing 8 or 9 bad lottery in a row. She was so angry that she had to come again, as if she would not give up until she drew a good lottery. Okay, how about this, let's change a fox fairy. That's fine. Nangongyan stood up and walked towards another fox fairy with Su Ming. Before leaving, she did not forget to poke the belly of the little fox who had just helped her draw the lottery with her slender fingers, and said angrily, little bad guy. This time, Su Ming brought her to the big-eared thief. The big-eared thief is the one who has the most contact with the spiritual power. He is the smartest and most flexible one. Whether the thigh meat can be preserved depends on it. The big-eared thief held the bucket and shook it for a long time, but no stick came out. Su Ming's mind moved, and he used his soul-attaching ability to attach his spiritual power to the big-eared thief to peek at the shaking sticks. This is it, shake it. Snap. A stick fell out, and Nangongyan quickly picked it up. After seeing this, her little face relaxed, and she smiled, holding the stick and gesturing to Su Ming, look, I finally drew a good stick. The stick reads, diligent and heavy words, and there is a vow in the words that the 2 hearts know. It means that the 2 people are in harmony with each other, which is a good omen. I said, the little fox was too tired just now. Su Ming sighed, thinking that I was also very tired. It took a lot of effort to find this one. Unexpectedly, Nangongyan stuffed the lot to the big-eared thief again, and urged with a smile, try it again. Su Ming rolled his eyes, and another mental force came over. Hwa wah, Snap. Yeah. The best lot, the lady is beautiful, the gentleman is a good match. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. As if to take revenge, Nangongyan drew 7 or 8 times without giving up. The situation has taken a big turn. This time, all the lots are good. Until she almost drew all the good lots in the lot bucket, she ended this marriage-seeking journey with satisfaction. Under the setting sun, Nangongyan's little face was flushed, and she hugged Su Ming's shoulders, and the two slowly walked down the mountain. Nangongyan was a very smart girl. As she was walking, she suddenly looked up and asked Su Ming in confusion, "There are only 20 or so sticks in a bucket. I picked out all the good and bad ones. This seems too coincidental, right? Tell me the truth, are you playing tricks on me?" Su Ming smiled and said nothing, but raised his hand to rub her head. He, no matter whether it is or not, it's a good stick in the end. I'm so tired. Nangongyan chuckled and hung on Su Ming's arm like a big koala. Su Ming felt that his arm was squeezed by a strange ball. He was a little angry because he didn't eat morels. "Well, did you bring a swimsuit?" "No. It's so cold." "Oh. What? 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 Go, go, go." After playing in the zoo for an afternoon, it was getting late, so he drove Nangongyan home. Nangongyan had a good family background and outstanding personal conditions. When she was in school, she was the kind of girl who was at the forefront of fashion. Whether it is clothing, daily necessities, or her own aesthetic taste, she is far ahead of most girls of the same age. Girls are expensive, but it does not mean that there are no rules. On the contrary, Nangongyan's family education is very strict. The two ran to a restaurant in the city to have a meal and watch a movie. Before 10 o'clock, Su Ming drove Nangong home. Although Amber Villa is not as luxurious as the villa area where Zhao Yun lives, it is also one of the high-end communities in Yangchuan City in the early years. Su Ming's Wrangler, worth more than 500,000 yuan, is just a mid-range car in Amber Villa. He couldn't even enter the gate of the community and was stopped by the guard at the door. So people must not be crazy. There are so many rich people these days. Su Ming's industry, not to mention that most of it is still in the starting stage, even if it is fully developed, it is just lifting out of poverty and entering the circle of rich people. There is still a long way to go before becoming a real rich man. But no matter how rich you are, it is not as good as a beautiful woman's face. Nangong, half of his head appeared from the car window and said a few words to the guard. The gate of the community creaked open and he entered the door by scanning his face. "Good face," Su Ming said jokingly while driving to Nangong's B7 building. "Go to hell, half of the people living in Amber Villa are employees of various units, and there are also many cotters. The guards are all retired armed police, and outsiders are generally not allowed to enter," Nangong explained. When they arrived at the bottom of building B7, Nangong was about to get off the car, but suddenly frowned and said, "Let's go out for a walk and come back later." Su Ming and Nangong have been together for so many years, and Nangong's expression can't be hidden from him at all. He didn't drive immediately and asked, "What's wrong?" Nangong didn't hide it either. He pointed to a red Trident parked under a street light across the road and said with a little disgust, "An advertiser of our TV station, a playboy, has chased all the slightly prettier female hosts in the station one by one. Now it's my turn. He has been showing his courtesy every few days during this period, and I'm too lazy to talk to him." The headlights of the Trident were still on, and the engine was not turned off. From the half-open window, you can vaguely see a sharp-edged profile on the driver's seat. It should be a handsome young man. "Do you want me to come forward?" Su Ming asked. "No need. I'm prepared for these things when I work in a TV station. Don't worry, I can handle it. Besides, I know that flies don't bite cracked eggs. I just don't hit smiling people." There's no need to tear each other apart, Nangongyan shrugged and said indifferently. Whether it's friends or lovers, trust and respect are indispensable, even the most important. Since Nangong said so, Su Ming didn't insist. He just secretly ordered Gozi, who was hiding in the back seat of the Wrangler, to follow Nangong to protect him and report any accidents in time. Since he had the ability to attach souls and the Saker Falcon, Gozi's status as a close little spy has been greatly shaken. If Su Ming is active in the city, it's okay, but once he goes into the mountains, Gozi, who is relatively weak, can obviously not play as good a role as the Saker Falcon, which has almost no natural enemies. So Su Ming was specially sent by Gozi to Nangongyan, with more than a dozen wasps, to form a wasp special action team to protect Nangong. Nangong is a girl who knows what she is doing. She is very smooth in handling affairs on the scene. Her family background is strong enough. She is not afraid of 10,000, but afraid of one. Su Ming gave Gozi a lot of authority. If Nangong encounters any danger and he can't rush over in time, Gozi can directly command the Hornet Rangers to attack. Am I a little paranoid? Su Ming sometimes thinks that it's not a movie, where are there so many bad guys? But as a male animal, the protection and possessiveness of females is probably a kind of nature and cannot be avoided. The Wrangler started again and slowly drove towards the gate of the community. Su Ming opened the rear window calmly. It's so cold, why open the window? Nangong asked curiously. Ah! It's so stuffy in the car, change the air. Su Ming said seriously. Everyone has a dark side, and Su Ming is no exception. Reason is reason, emotion is emotion, and the woman who harassed my future in front of me, is there still a law? Is there justice? Where has social fairness and justice gone? Can people driving Tridents bully Wranglers? Why is it that Wranglers are stopped by security guards when they enter the community gate, but Tridents can swagger in and park under street lights to act in a deep manner? Su Ming felt that he had the responsibility to maintain social harmony and protect vulnerable groups like himself, and he had no choice but to do so. Gozi quietly flew out of the rear window, shaking his wings, and buzzed slowly towards the open window of the Trident. Ren Chen leaned against the back of the car and looked at the Cartier on his wrist with some boredom. It was already 9:10 in the evening, but Nangongyan still didn't come home. According to the news he had heard from everywhere, Nangongyan rarely came home late except for overtime. The last few times he came to Amber Villa, he met Nangongyan downstairs before 7 o'clock. He couldn't help but look at the bunch of Amazon lotus on the co-pilot seat. This kind of lotus has a strange fragrance and crystal petals. It is extremely rare in the market in Yangchuan City. Ren Chen is definitely a master of women. He is handsome, successful in his career, young and rich. His years of experience in women also make him understand women's minds very well. In his opinion, the way of giving 999 roses at every turn is really cliché and outdated, which completely lowers the level of himself and the other girl. Sending Amazon lotus is both interesting and elegant, and as long as the girl searches the internet, she will definitely be surprised at the price of this small bouquet of lotus. Speaking of making money, Ren Chen dare not say that he is the most outstanding young entrepreneur in Yangchuan City, but when it comes to picking up girls, he has full confidence in himself. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 266. The Amazon lotus is precious not only because it is rare, but also because it has a short flowering period of only a few hours. At this time, the white petals have begun to wither. Although this flower is beautiful and breathtaking, it will wither 2 or 3 hours after blooming, just like the night blooming Sirius. Just like Ren Chen's character, when pursuing a girl, he is passionate and makes people excited, but as soon as he succeeds, he will quickly lose interest in the other party and turn to look for the next target. Seeing that the lotus will wither in a while, Ren Chen shrugged and prepared to throw this valuable flower out of the car window and leave the community. In the process of catching prey, Ren Chen has always been very patient. Failure once or twice does not mean anything. On the contrary, he feels that the kind of woman who wets the floor as soon as she sees him is not challenging and does not arouse interest. A strong woman is afraid of a clinging man. Ren Chen knows very well that with his financial resources and appearance, as long as he works hard, there may be no woman in Yangchuan City that he cannot get. Just as he picked up the Amazon lotus, before he could throw the flower out of the window, there was a buzzing sound from the petals, and a black wasp jumped out, stinging his handsome face like lightning. Although Ren Chen looks gentle and refined, with a handsome appearance, he has been the only one who bullies others since he was a child, and no one has ever bullied him. He is definitely not a cowardly person. Although his face hurts, he subconsciously slaps it hard. Pah! With a crisp sound, the wasp had already flown away, and this slap hit his face, causing him to grin again in pain. Immediately afterwards, there was a burning pain on his face, and Ren Chen quickly turned on the interior lights and looked at the makeup mirror in the car. In the mirror, the originally pretty little face suddenly swelled up like a pig's head. Half of the face bulged up and blocked the left eye. Tears could not help but flow out. The cheeks were red, swollen, and purple. From the small hole bitten by the wasp, pus and blood were oozing out. In just a few tens of seconds, the whole face was a little numb, especially the half of the face that was bitten, which was almost numb. Damn, I won't be disfigured. Ren Chen was extremely depressed, thinking that it was really unlucky. The fragrance of the Amazon lotus did not seduce women, but attracted wasps. You are so right, Su Ming said to Nangongyan in a very serious tone while driving. It's a cold day to drive, there is no need to open the window, isn't this pretending? Huh, Nangongyan looked at Su Ming a little puzzled, thinking that I didn't say it was a bit cold to open the window, and I didn't say you were pretending? I am reflecting on myself. The saints said that we should reflect on ourselves 3 times a day. I have always held myself to the saints' standards and reflect on myself every moment. As he spoke, he closed the rear window of the car, and Goza lay quietly in the back compartment. Nangongyan looked at Su Ming for a while, and suddenly her big eyes fluttered twice, and she smiled and asked, "Oh, I know, you are jealous." Eating vinegar often is good for gastrointestinal motility, promotes digestion, and prevents various respiratory infectious diseases, Su Ming said as a matter of course, but that handsome guy, I guess he won't come to harass you for several days. How do you know? Nangongyan asked curiously. God told me, Su Ming said seriously. Although Gozi only released less than a quarter of the venom, it would take at least a week for the handsome guy to reduce the swelling. Nangongyan had long been accustomed to Su Ming's frequent mumbling and saying some inexplicable and nonsensical words. She did not ask further questions and smiled and said, "What else did God tell you?" God also said that when I have money, I have to buy a good car, Su Ming gritted his teeth and said. Next, Su Ming drove with Nangongyan directly to the night market and ate from beginning to end, eating skewers of crayfish and clams with milk tea until almost 12 o'clock. Nangong began to feel sick, and then sent her home, perfectly interpreting what is called a pure relationship between men and women. On the way back to the zoo, Su Ming was also wondering if he had any psychological problems. Or was it that he was used to living alone and had a more withdrawn personality? So although he was getting closer and closer to Nangong, he never broke the last layer of window paper. Almost at the same time, Nangong was lying on the bed in the bedroom, thinking about the same question. She and Su Ming have come to this day, and they both know clearly about the positioning of their relationship. Just kidding, when I went to medical school, I kissed her on the lips, and it was from Fashi. She knew Su Ming well. Behind that face that often wore a sunny smile, there was actually a heart that was hard to approach. Nangong could sometimes feel that, perhaps because he had no father since childhood, there was a small cold place in Su Ming's heart, and he would often inadvertently reveal that kind of very attractive but dangerous temperament. So, Su Ming had been pretending to be stupid, and Nangong could understand it, and it was also within her expectations. Su Ming was such a person. Understanding was understanding, but it was still a bit depressing. There was nothing that could not be said between besties. Nangong lay on the bed, holding her mobile phone and WeChat with a bestie, and chattered a lot in voice. A voice message came from WeChat, and the bestie spoke as fast as a singing bird, and she even spoke in a foreign language. What the hell, men are just cheap, don't give him a good face, understand? You are so sharp-tongued, why don't you become a self-media celebrity? Nangong posted a sentence followed by an eye-rolling expression. On Xinai.com, the Weibo account of Dao Wenyuk registered by Su Ming now has 3,482 fans. The total number is not much. It has only been one day since the TV station broadcasted Nangong Yan's interview. It is obviously unrealistic to become a big V with hundreds of thousands of fans just by relying on one TV show. However, the number of fans has been growing, and every time it is refreshed, the number of fans will increase. This feeling is a bit like after an online novel has a good recommendation position, the author refreshes the backend collection. During the recommendation period, the collection grows very quickly, but after it is put on the shelf, it will lose followers because many readers go to read pirated copies. It can add more than 3,000 collections in one day. Oh no, it has more than 3,000 fans. The effect of this recommendation is also quite brutal, and there are a lot of messages behind it. Most of them were about broad-eared foxes, and there were also some about giant salamanders, alligators, and golden monkeys. Some people asked when the fish riding project would reopen. On May 1st, the fish riding event will be open. Welcome to ride. The giant salamander has been very lonely recently. If anyone knows where there is a big and fat female giant salamander, please leave a message and let us know. This kindling golden monkey is male, so there is no question whether it is a white tiger or a golden tiger. The big bad wolf in the back mountain is definitely not a big gray wolf. I assure Chairman Mao, my friend, if you are going to hit it with a pen, please call 121st. Su Ming took the time to reply to many fans' messages, and uploaded a video of a monkey riding a dog running around in the mountains. He specially added a watermark to the video copyright, Daowen Fun. As soon as the video was released, it refreshed after a few minutes, and there were 20 more messages and 6 forwarding prompts. As new videos continue to be updated and these videos continue to be widely disseminated through various channels, more people will know the Weibo account Dao Wenyuki, and the number of fans will definitely continue to increase in the future, although currently there are only a few thousand, but in the foreseeable future, tens of thousands of fans are not far away. But having said that, celebrities still have great influence. A celebrity who has never acted in any drama can have millions or even tens of millions of fans after participating in a few reality shows. Currently on Weibo, what everyone is most concerned about is what gifts are available. Su Ming already said on TV last time that fans who joined earlier can participate in a lottery and receive gifts prepared by the zoo star animals. Regarding the lottery gifts, Su Ming had an idea at the time and casually mentioned it. He really hadn't thought about what kind of gifts to give. But once you have said it, you must fulfill it. Just like writing an online novel and promising readers that there will be 10 updates tomorrow. As long as the words are spoken, even if you have not saved the manuscript and vomited blood and stayed up all night, you still have to come up with 10 updates. This is the same truth. A person must keep his word. This is how character is accumulated bit by bit, or it fails time and time again. What exactly are you giving? Su Ming thought for a while. In fact, the key issue is not what gift to give. Those who can spend money to come to the zoo to see animals are at least well fed and not just seeking small profits for gifts. The main purpose is to create excitement and give a gift through a lottery to shorten the distance between this public account, or the zoo and its fans, and enhance the relationship. Therefore, the method of giving gifts and drawing draws is very important, and the gift itself is secondary. Of course, if the gift can blow up the sky, the effect will be even better. The gift is being prepared, please stay tuned. In the afternoon, Sister Tong suddenly found Su Ming. Lao Song has been attending meetings in the city these days and has not come to the zoo to work. If there are important matters, he will communicate with Su Ming and other leaders in charge on the phone. At present, the daily work management of the zoo is handled by Sister Tong, the office director. Sister Tong brought a statistical table with detailed data on the zoo's traffic flow. It can be clearly seen from the table that before June, the flow of people in the zoo remained at a basically uniform level. After June, that is, after Su Ming came, the flow of people began to rise, and it has always maintained a high-speed upward trend. A sloping upward curve that continues until this year. So far, the flow of people is about 210% of the same period last year, which is more than double. The main income of the zoo is admission tickets. The number of visitors determines the economic status of the zoo. In the past few days, the Fox Home project has just been opened in Huishan. Whether it is because of piety or freshness, it has been extremely popular and the number of people has increased sharply. However, many people do not go to the back mountain from the zoo, but take a detour and climb up from the wild fields around the back mountain. In other words, many people did not buy tickets. Sister Tong wanted to build a wall around the road leading to the back mountain where people can walk. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 267. Fare evasion, is normal. Not to mention the back hill, it is the park. The surrounding walls are only 2 or 3 meters high after being raised. 2 adults can climb over by holding hands. Even if they are caught, they will only pay for the fare. Fare evasion cannot be banned, but it cannot be ignored either. Repair it, it must be repaired. Build a big wall, or enclose the 2 hills belonging to our zoo like the foreign protected areas. Okay, then I'll go find the construction team. I'll stamp the wall repair documents and bring them to you to sign, Sister Tong said. Sister Tong's real purpose of coming today is to say this. What about building a wall? That's just a chat, not the real purpose. The zoo is undergoing restructuring and is about to get a new owner. Sister Tong has been working in the zoo for so many years, how can she not understand the situation? Who will decide the future of the zoo? Not to mention the confidence of the old director like her, even the ordinary employees of the zoo can see clearly. At this time, as an old employee of the zoo, who was originally second only to Director Song, she was the first to stand up and ask Su Ming for instructions on the work. This was a way of showing her support for Su Ming's succession and supporting him. Work. Old employees like Sister Tong can be regarded as Su Ming's elders. Even if they express their opinions, they cannot come directly and say, Mr. Su, I support you. So by using this method of asking for instructions, it was assumed that Su Ming could exercise the power of Director Song. What kind of construction team are we looking for? Just go to Su Desheng and the others, Su Ming chuckled. The construction team is ready. The eldest son of the second uncle's family and his distant uncle, Su Desheng, is engaged in construction. He used to work in Moxie County. If you work part-time and know many bricklayers, you can organize a construction team. Now Su Desheng and the others are building a small snake garden in the back mountain, planning to house more than 100 snakes in the future. It just so happens that the wall repair project is handed over to them. Sister Tong understood and smiled. Well, after the restructuring, there will definitely be many construction projects. If we don't bother the 2 owners, we can just leave them to them. With more cooperation, we know each other well, and we can communicate with each other easily if we have any problems. Sister, if you come to be the director of this office and be in charge of the daily affairs of the zoo, I will be relieved of my worries, Su Ming said with a smile. Sister Tong showed her attitude in return, and Su Ming naturally wanted to reciprocate. What's more, Sister Tong is really a good person in charge of the daily management of the zoo. In terms of familiarity with the zoo, she is the best in the entire zoo. After Sister Tong, the heads of several important departments, such as the security department and the finance department, had made appointments in advance and all came to Su Ming one after another to ask for work instructions. Leader, this is not good. It makes me eager to seize the class and seize power. Su Ming made a special call to Lao Song that night. Although he will take over in the future, Lao Song has always been kind to him. He is still holding a meeting in the city, and if he seizes power behind his back, it would be unjustifiable both emotionally and rationally. However, Director Song had known these things for a long time and said, I said hello to them and asked them to ask you for advice if they have anything to do in the future. I'm not leaving now, and I'm not far away. The restructuring meeting will end soon. While I'm still here, I'll let you get familiar with the zoo management work. I can help you get on the horse, so you can do it with confidence, it'll be fine. Hey, old leader, what can I say? Su Ming felt a little bit. Of course, the ability of Friends of Animals is the main reason why he is where he is today. But apart from Friends of Animals, he is also inseparable from Director Song. Help from people like Zhao Yun. Director Song laughed on the other end of the phone, if you don't live up to expectations, I can't help you. In other words, you are a noble person in the zoo. Don't think so much, work hard and develop the zoo. It's prosperous. Don't let those employees who are dedicated to working with you suffer, this is better than anything else. Director Song was still in a meeting, but Su Ming had already taken over the power from the director. Less than 2 days after exercising his power, Su Ming encountered his first problem. This is a problem that all leading cotters will encounter. Looking at several bottles of good wine, a few cartons of good cigarettes, and a thick brown paper envelope in front of him, Su Ming knew that the time had come to test his party spirit. Uncle, what are you doing? Su Ming said speechlessly to his uncle Su Desheng sitting opposite. After this uncle contracted the project from Sister Tong, he immediately came to give Su Ming a gift. Su Ming, don't get me wrong, I don't mean anything else. The uncle kept waving his hands and said a little awkwardly, this thing I have is not to thank you for giving me the project. You are now the leader, and the company, a big family and a big business have big expenses. If you take care of your family members, they will try to repay you as much as they can. My uncle, you led the team and completed the project, which is the greatest help to me. I'm not refuting your face. You brought these things and money back. It's not like I don't know your situation. The engineering team has just been organized, and the project funds have not yet been paid, so you must be in a hurry. If you can refund these cigarettes and alcohol, you can return them. If you can't, they will be distributed to your workers. I knew that my uncle had good intentions, but Su Ming absolutely couldn't accept it. Firstly, since he and his uncle were relatives, Su Ming didn't want to make things too vulgar. Secondly, a private boss like Su Ming actually didn't like to receive gifts. To put it bluntly, this is equivalent to taking his money and giving it to him. Seeing that his uncle was about to say something, Su Ming slightly frowned, half jokingly and half seriously said, Uncle, you are making me make a mistake, but I am a party member. This is not just my idea, but also the idea of my fellow workers. In the past, I had little work and little money in the county. Now you have given me an opportunity. Everyone wanted to thank you in person, but they were afraid of disturbing your work, so they asked me to be a representative and bring these. Uncle said. I accept your kindness, but I must not accept anything. The party's discipline is in charge. Su Ming smiled. After rejecting his uncle's gift, Su Ming was actually quite happy. It is not only conspiracy and corruption that can make people happy. Sometimes sticking to principles and improving moral cultivation can also gain satisfaction. When the granary is full, you know etiquette. The key is that you have to have money. It is true that developing the economy is the top priority. If you talk about morality with people who can't even afford to eat, it is not boring, but shameless. It seems that it is necessary to set up a high-prize moral model award in the zoo in the future, Su Ming was thinking in his mind while surfing the internet. The number of fans on Weibo has increased exponentially, and it is now close to 30,000 and is still growing. Those forwarded videos have played a big role. The way the internet spreads is explosive. As long as there is enough attractive content, there is no need to worry about the problem of fans. There are too many messages. Su Ming is now lacking an operation team. It is really a bit difficult to manage this Weibo account alone. It is impossible to reply to all the messages one by one. I can only glance at them hurriedly to know what is going on. Suddenly, I opened a Weibo account and read and deal with a large number of messages every day. There are good and bad messages on the internet, and even inexplicable insults. For example, someone asked him with a tone of concern for the world why he didn't protect humans. There are so many refugees in Africa and so many children in rural areas who can't afford to go to school. Why should the zoo spend money on animals? This is still relatively good. Although the logic is disordered, it is meaningful after all. Some of the most depressing ones are completely unknown. They come up to greet his family. Su Ming knows that things on the internet should not be taken too seriously, but he is an emotional person after all. After a few days, he was a little upset by this Weibo. Zhao Yun suddenly came to the door and waved to Su Ming in an Audi. I heard that you are upset these days. I will take you to a quiet place. Daiwan Temple is the largest temple in Yangchuan City. Daiwan Temple is not far from the zoo. One is on the east side of the back mountain and the other is on the west side. It is across the mountain. It takes less than 20 minutes to drive along the foot of the mountain. Daiwan Temple has a pivotal position in the Buddhist community of Yangchuan City and even the whole province. To be precise, Daiwan Temple is a large building complex and also a famous tourist attraction in Yangchuan City. It covers an area of hundreds of acres, with dozens of main halls and side halls, pavilions, carved corridors and painted buildings, release ponds, lotus ponds, and 7,749 large and small landscapes, with beautiful environment and pleasant scenery. Most of the so-called 49 scenic spots are of course just for the sake of numbers, but the giant white marble carving at the gate is extremely rare, vividly depicting the grand occasion when Sakyamuni was born. At that time, the Buddha was born as a baby, with 2 dragons spewing water to cleanse his body, 1 dragon spewing hot springs, and 1 dragon spewing ice springs. The Buddha took 7 steps forward in the air. With each step, brilliant golden lotuses grew under his feet. After 7 steps, the Buddha pointed to the sky with one hand and the ground with the other, saying, "I am the only one in the world." Such a scene is carved on the white marble wall. "I am the only one in the world" is often misunderstood. In fact, this is not a domineering declaration by Long Aotian. In Buddhism, this I refers to self-consciousness, that is, one's own heart. The real meaning of this sentence of Buddha is that there is nothing more important in the world than maintaining one's true self, and one should never forget one's original heart at any time. I Buddha also means this: the heart is Buddha. As long as you understand your own heart and follow your heart, everyone is your own Buddha. Everyone is the master of his own life, and does not have to obey other people or gods who are superior to anyone. Monk Gideon said that wine and meat pass through the intestines, and Buddha sits in the heart, which also means this. Su Ming couldn't help but smile. It seems that his Taoism is far from enough, and his heart is still not completely calm. I thought that in the past 6 months, I have seen more of the world, my business has grown, and I have matured. I didn't expect that I couldn't keep my temper after being scolded by malicious attacks on the internet. Life is like cultivation. I am still young. There is a huge difference between me and the Sakyamuni, who is the only one in the world. I still have to cultivate. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 268. In a sense, the origin of Buddhism is actually philosophy. Studying Buddhist teachings is studying the principles of life. Among all the religions in the world, Buddhism is the only one that does not regard itself as a godhead or engage in personal worship. Inspiring believers to discover their own potential is very similar to Malos's humanistic psychology. Zhao Yun, a middle-aged man who knew a lot, introduced Buddhism to Su Ming along the way. Daiwan Temple existed in the early Ming dynasty until the Japanese invaded during World War II and was razed to the ground by a fire. 20 years ago, Daiwan Temple only had a small earth temple at the entrance, without even a temple blessing. It was simply a wasteland. Later, a great monk Huineng came and made a great wish to restore Daiwan Temple. He spent almost 10 years traveling half of China, contacting various parties, contacting and appealing, or in other words, soliciting investment and sponsorship. Today's Daiwan Temple is the result of his forced begging. Monk Huineng naturally became the abbot of Daiwan Temple. Unlike other monks who only know how to eat fast and chant Buddha's name, Huineng actually has a lot of business acumen and is open-minded. In just a few years, he developed Daiwan Temple and became the largest temple in Yangchuan City. All in all, he is considered a very important figure in the city. Just as he and Zhao Yun were saying this, a fat monk in dark yellow robes walked out of a side hall not far away. The monk looked to be over 50, but his body was extremely strong. He's so fat that he looks like a Shaolin monk. When the fat monk saw Zhao Yun from afar, he came over with a smile and said, "Ba, Zhao Yun, you are here." Whoops! This was good, but before he had even walked a few steps, the fat monk was panting from exhaustion. This smile was like that of Maitreya Buddha, with the flesh on his face puckering up. The old monk must be secretly eating meat. Su Ming thought to himself. Master Huineng, you are getting fatter and fatter now. When Su Ming found out that this fat monk was Huineng, he felt a little incredible at first. How could he travel all over the country to raise money if he was so fat? But then I thought about it. Zhu Beiji traveled thousands of miles and was vegetarian all the way, but he didn't lose weight. The fate of fat people may be predestined, and it really has nothing to do with whether they exercise or not, or whether they diet or not. Ba, it turns out that Mr. Su is here. I have heard of Mr. Su's name a long time ago. He is young and promising. Lao Huineng smiled happily, shaking his fat body, and brought Su Ming and Zhao Yun to the tea was served in the abbot's Zen room. These days, monks have to keep pace with the times. If they fail to keep up with the trend, they will be eliminated sooner or later. The reason why Daiwan Temple has grown from a small local temple to the largest temple in Yangchuan City has something to do with Abbot Huineng's open-mindedness. Su Ming was a little stunned as soon as he entered the abbot's Zen room. The Zen room in front of him was completely different from the monk's room he imagined in the Qingdeng ancient Buddha. The decoration was not luxurious, but the windows were bright and clean, and there were LCD TVs, laptops, and intercoms. All modern office supplies are available, and it looks exactly like the leadership office in the company. All I have to do is put a female secretary at the door to answer the phone. In fact, there is a sign hanging at the door of the abbot's Zen room, Abbot's office. There was a small coffee table in the office with a purple clay teapot set on it. Monk Huineng made several rounds of tea, and the three of them drank and chatted for a while. Su Ming and Zhao Yun are both businessmen. Although Huineng is a family member, in order to promote Buddhism and expand Daiwan Temple, they inevitably have to deal with the secular world. As the three of them chatted, the topic turned to the country's economic situation. Whether it is a company or a temple, if it wants to survive and develop, it is essential to carry out publicity work. Huaneng actually opened a personal Weibo account. So I directly turned on my computer to surf the internet, and became fans of Su Ming's Dawen Yuk account. There are almost 50,000 fans. Monk Huaneng took out a pair of glasses from the drawer and put them on, stared at the computer screen, moved the mouse, and said to himself, the registration date is, oh, it's only 5, oh my god. That's so good. If Mr. Su has the opportunity in the future, he would go to the trouble of helping me promote Daiwan Temple. It would be a great deed. Monk Huaneng's Weibo account has more than 70,000 followers, but his Weibo account has been registered for 7 or 8 years. It was only due to the vigorous promotion of Daiwan Temple that it reached its current scale. Su Ming's Weibo account has been in existence for less than a week and has tens of thousands of fans, which shows that its influence is quite large. However, although the number of Huaneng's fans is not large, they are all believers from all over the country. They are very loyal and are definitely Dai fans. Most of them are adults with a certain financial strength, many of whom have successful careers and strong financial resources. Authoritative figures and celebrities with a certain social status contain huge energy. As the saying goes, distant relatives are not as good as close neighbors. Daiwan Temple and the zoo are separated by a mountain, and there is no conflict in business. I didn't know the old monk Huaneng before. Now that we have known each other today, of course we should support each other and take care of each other in the future. Su Ming laughed. Said, Master, you're welcome. Our two families will have more contacts in the future, and we should promote each other. Huaneng finished surfing the internet, turned off the computer, and unexpectedly took out an apple fives from under the loose monk's robe. Mr. Su, let's add private WeChat messages to each other so that we can keep in touch if we need anything in the future. The corner of Su Ming's mouth twitched twice. The last time it was released, Nangong queued up to buy it but couldn't buy it yet. This old monk has definitely studied the spirit of the Central Committee deeply and has done the best to keep pace with the times. Huaneng's WeChat account was called Little Monk Huaneng, and his avatar was a cute and tender wooden fish-knocking monk that is very popular on the internet. Su Ming suppressed his laughter and added him as a friend. Immediately afterwards, Huaneng received a friend message. Huh? Big beast? Is this your number, Mr. Su? Lao Huaneng was stunned at first. He, yes, our majors are different. You are in charge of a big temple and are called little monks, I am in charge of a group of animals, which I call big beasts. What a joke, Su Ming said with a smile. This WeChat account used to be for acquaintances and classmates. It was a bit of a joke to use the name of a big animal, but it didn't matter. But now some business partners and social friends are gradually adding it, and the name is a bit embarrassing. From then on, from a certain perspective, Su Ming's face was actually quite thin. Unexpectedly, Huaneng was stunned for a few seconds, then looked at Su Ming and said seriously, Ba, Mr. Su, your name is great. Ah! Su Ming was speechless. Are you praising me or scolding me? I saw Lao Huaneng saying seriously, this name has an illusion. Among the 8 deities and dragons of Buddhism, the dragon, Garuda, Mohaluka and other tribes all took refuge in the body of animals and took refuge in my Buddha. Preach the Tao and become a Buddhist protector and deity. In Buddhism, the word big means great wisdom, great detachment, and great freedom. It seems that Mr. Su has a lot of wisdom. Like Mr. Zhao, he is my Buddha. The talented people who protect the Dharma are so good, Ba. Su Ming was also completely convinced. With such an old abbot in charge, it's no wonder that Daiwan Temple is underdeveloped. Buddhist interpretation of things is sometimes like fortune-telling. The same thing, a hexagram, but different interpretation methods, the results are completely different. Any religious person who comes into contact is absolutely first class in their verbal skills. Buddha really has a vision. He chose you, the old Zen master, to be the abbot of Daiwan Temple. How could Buddhism not flourish? Su Ming said with a smile. Ashamed, ashamed. That's so good. I still need more support from all the protectors. Old Abbot Huaneng also smiled. In the abbot's office, Su Ming chatted with Lao Huaneng for an entire afternoon. Su Ming felt that he was quite knowledgeable. It goes without saying that Lao Huaneng was born in Zen Buddhism and has profound Buddhist teachings. He can talk about all kinds of illusions one after another. What is even more rare is that he is not limited to the words in Buddhist scriptures and can integrate Buddhism and life well. Everything I talk about can be combined with Buddhism. Chatting with him is not boring at all, and I feel that time flies by. When he came out of the abbot's office, the evening bell of Daiwan Temple rang. Looking at the majestic main hall in front of him, Su Ming suddenly felt something. Lao Huaneng, a well-known virtuous monk in the country, has profound Buddhist teachings and worked hard for Daiwan Temple. In the eyes of outsiders, he is an absolute Taoist monk. However, for the development of Daiwan Temple, for the ideal in his mind, to promote Buddhism, he is an outsider, and he is already quite old. He can put down his posture and learn to use iPads, computers, and high technologies like WeChat like young people. Moreover, Su Ming could not see any negative emotions from him. Lao Huaneng happily accepted these things that seemed to have nothing to do with Buddhism, but he promoted Buddhism better. This old monk managed to pass the meat and wine through his intestines, and the Buddha sat in his heart. Why, I feel a lot better now that I can chat with Lao Hui, Zhao Yun said with a smile. It's true. Su Ming did a chest expansion exercise and nodded. I've known him since I was young. When I have troubles, I would come to him and sit there. Sometimes I don't seem to have anything to talk about, but my mood will be much better. Zhao Yun put his hands together and bowed slightly to the Mahavira hall not far away, and said lightly, what does it mean to save all sentient beings? This is to save all sentient beings. Educate all sentient beings. Isn't that a bit of a big word? Su Ming laughed. If you are willing, donate some incense money to the temple. It is not easy for old wisdom to do it. I am not exaggerating when I say it will save all sentient beings, Zhao Yun said. It's okay to put on some incense, but you said that Daiwan Temple is short of money, right? Su Ming asked confused. Zhao Yun said, you probably don't know that Daiwan Temple started a charity project several years ago to help children from poor areas in Qinghai and Gansu go to school, so Daiwan Temple's finances have always been tight. I think according to the information of the poor children he sponsored, the family situation is really difficult for these children living in the city. Many of them have lost their parents and live with their sick grandparents. They receive government subsidies for a year. The family's income is only 2,000 to 3,000 yuan, there are many children as old as Chang, not to mention computers and mobile phones, they don't even know what QQ and WeChat are. People like you and me have been in the business world for a long time and have seen the ugliest sides of people. We are used to thinking the worst about everyone. Everything we do is measured by its economic value. Lao Huaneng is different from us. He is a man with great perseverance, great ambition, and great kindness. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 269. Early the next morning, the large conference room of the zoo was already crowded with people, ranging from the leadership to the most basic cleaning staff, security guards, and even temporary workers. Except for a few positions that were inseparable from people, one person was left on duty. All the remaining people came to attend the meeting, so that there were not enough chairs in the conference room to sit, and many people were standing. Even Secretary Chen, the party secretary of the zoo who had been recuperating in a nursing home and had never appeared, attended the meeting. It turned out that Su Ming was a little worried about whether Secretary Chen, who had never shown up before, would have an impact on his succession. After all, in terms of organizational structure, the party secretary is the real leader of the zoo. Even if it becomes an enterprise after restructuring, due to the special nature of the zoo, it cannot be a purely private enterprise. The party committee secretary still plays a decisive role in the zoo. Su Ming had discussed with Director Song before whether he should pay a special visit to the secretary. Now, after seeing Secretary Chen with his own eyes, Su Ming finally understood why this number one chief never showed up at the zoo. The old man is actually not very old, not yet 60, and is still far from retirement. But his health is not ordinary. He came in a wheelchair, and his face was covered with the kind of age spots that only people in their 70s or 80s would have. There was also a nurse from a nursing home following him. It was clear that she was afraid that something would happen to the old man, so that he could get treatment in time. After arriving, Secretary Chen put an artificial sounder against his throat, first greeted Director Song, and then sat down and took a nap on the side of the conference table like a Buddha. It was purely a symbol. Old Chen came from the war to resist US aggression and aid Korea. He was seriously injured. After he became a professional, he worked in a zoo for 2 years. His health failed. He has been working as party committee secretary and is in Nanshan nursing home. Sister Tong sat next to Su Ming and whispered. In the middle of the large conference room is a long round conference table. Director Song sits at the top and presides over the meeting. Secretary Chen does not occupy the conference table. He is pushed in a wheelchair by the nurse and sits diagonally behind Director Song to listen. Next, Su Ming is the first one on the left, and the second one is Sister Tong, Section Chief Dong, and the heads of several departments such as finance. Lao Song was a kind person. In the past few years as the director, the atmosphere in the zoo has been relatively relaxed. Except when arranging work, the rest of the time, there was no big hierarchical gap between ordinary employees and the so-called leaders. Unlike in some units, when leaders are present, subordinates dare not fart. Of course, this does not mean that zoo employees will fart at will when Lao Song is present. There was some noise in the conference room. Today's restructuring meeting involves everyone's vital interests. According to general experience, after the restructuring of an institution like a zoo, a group of people will be laid off. At the same time, the first 1 or 2 years will be difficult, and the general income may be reduced. Lower, so everyone is whispering about what will be announced at today's meeting. In fact, most employees don't care if their income drops slightly. After Su Ming came to the zoo, the projects he carried out brought extra money to many employees. Some people, such as Master Peng and the medical office, have already earned more than their job salary. Even if it is a small amount, it is still several hundred or nearly 1,000 per month. Even if the salary is slightly lower in the future, everyone can accept it. The key is to lay off people. Working in the zoo is relatively easy and free, with no pressure. The working environment is good and there is not much intrigue among colleagues. It is a rare and good place. There was one unsatisfactory thing before: the income was slightly lower. But after Su Ming started several projects to earn extra money, this shortcoming was made up for. At present, the total income of most zoo employees is already considered high among the working class. Quiet, the meeting is now. Director Song blew into the microphone, and the sound of hoo-hoo suddenly sounded in the conference room. The entire conference room suddenly fell silent, and dozens of pairs of eyes fell on Old Song. Director Song turned around and said, "Old Chen, please say a few words first." The conference room burst into laughter. It turned out that following Director Song's gaze, Secretary Chen had fallen asleep half reclined in the wheelchair, snoring slightly. The young nurse in the nursing home standing behind him smiled and waved her hand, indicating that Lao Chen could just sleep. Dean Song coughed a little awkwardly and said, "Okay, I won't say much about the situation. The garden has been saying that it will be restructured 2 years ago, and today it has finally been implemented. Now I will mainly convey to the city spirit of instruction. The zoo was originally a public institution. But there are also differences between public institutions and public institutions, which are divided into 3 types. The main function of fully allocated funds is to provide social services without any operating activities and is supported by national and local financial allocations. The second type is differential allocated funds. This kind of public institution is of semi-public welfare nature and its main function is to provide social services and participate in some operations. However, in order to ensure its public welfare nature, the profits from operations are often relatively small and cannot make ends meet, so government financial support is also needed. Such as hospitals, the third category is self-financed public institutions, which have no public welfare nature. They mainly carry out business activities and are separated from government finances. There are not many third-category public institutions in Yangchuan City, and basically all of them have been transformed into enterprises. The zoo belongs to the second category, a public institution with differential funding. Director Tong, please read the city's document to everyone. Director Song handed the red-headed document about strength to Sister Tong. Sister Tong took the document, cleared her throat, stood up, read the document, and announced the city's plans for the decision to reorganize the zoo. Everyone can probably guess the content of the resolution before. The zoo is a second-category public institution. If it is restructured, it will move towards the third category. Economically, they are responsible for their own profits and losses. They only need to pay taxes on the money they earn, but the government does not care if they lose money. If they can't continue to operate, they will go through the path of closure, bankruptcy, merger, and reorganization. However, there are also differences from the third type of public institutions. First, the establishment of public institutions is gone. The government no longer allocates funds, and there is no practical significance in establishing an establishment. Second, the lack of establishment is exchanged for personnel autonomy. The recruitment, appointment, promotion, and dismissal of all employees of the zoo are all decided by the zoo, and personnel relations are also taken back from the superior department to the zoo. In essence, it is similar to a collectively owned enterprise, but it is more relaxed financially. According to relevant regulations, collective ownership generally retains 60% or slightly more of the after-tax profit, while the after-tax profit of the zoo belongs to the zoo 100%. Of course, the premise is that there is profit. The current situation is that if there is no financial subsidy, the zoo will have a negative profit. This time, Lao Song went to the city to fight mainly for various assets of the zoo. The most important asset of the zoo is thousands of animals. After the reform, these animals will still remain in the zoo, and they are not allowed to be bought or sold. The zoo is responsible for feeding them. The biggest difference between this and the past is that the ownership of animals has been clearly divided. In the past, it was a public institution, and these animals only lived in Yangchuan Zoo, and the zoo itself had no power to decide whether the animals stayed or left. With just one official document, any animal can be assigned to other zoos. In the past, Yangchuan City had raised 2 pandas in their teens, and they were sent to the capital to support the construction of the capital zoo. The capital zoo was also very polite and gave Yangchuan Zoo 2 porcupines. Director Song was depressed for a long time. From now on, this kind of thing will not happen in theory. The second is all kinds of fixed assets, such as a table and a chair, a lamp and a building, which are all listed. These things, after the discount, are equivalent to half selling and half giving to the zoo. Even so, the total price of the discount is quite amazing. Old Song even used Rogue in the conference room that day. Later, the news about the Fox Ferry was broadcast on TV, and Wang Jianxi took the opportunity to smooth things over. Finally, he negotiated with the city's financial department and returned it annually over 8 years. For the zoo, this is a heavy financial burden. But then again, all the assets were invested by the government. As long as the money can be repaid, the zoo will still make huge profits. The third item is a big one, which is the various lands of the zoo, including the park, the back mountain, and the Shuahun Lake. This item almost occupied 70% of Laosong's energy in the negotiation, and finally achieved a satisfactory result. The ownership of the land is still the state, and the zoo is still free to use it, but the zoo cannot change the nature of the land at will, and it must be guaranteed to be public welfare land. In other words, it cannot be said that it was originally a place to raise animals, and after the reform, the zoo rented it to developers to build villas. In a word, even if it is reformed, the public welfare science nature of the zoo cannot be changed, and the business it engages in cannot have any essential changes. It must still be a zoo that provides leisure, entertainment, and science for Yangchuan City, and cannot become a club villa, CBD, or something like that. The situation of the zoo has improved greatly in the past 6 months, which has brought a lot of confidence to Laosong's negotiations. It can be said that the conditions obtained have exceeded the expected upper limit. As for the government, it is not a loss, and it has thrown away a financial burden that is impossible to bring any benefits. The zoo's expenses are too high, and it is simply not enough to rely on ticket sales alone. Even though the number of visitors has more than doubled in the past 6 months, it is still not enough to cover the expenses. Su Ming himself is particularly clear about this. He has made a lot of money, but it is all his own business. The money goes into his pocket, and the zoo can only rely on ticket sales and a small amount of contracting fees. Financial independence is definitely a dream benefit for some units, but for units like zoos, it is a nightmare in most cases. At present, domestic zoos are basically losing money. For example, an adult tiger needs to eat more than 10 pounds of beef every day, in addition to animal offal, chickens and ducklings, and fruits, which costs at least 200 or 300 yuan a day, and an elephant, whose appetite is equivalent to 60 times that of a human, can eat 7 or 8 watermelons in one meal when its appetite is big, and can eat half a bag of garlic at a time. At present, the monthly food expenses of Yangchuan Zoo require hundreds of thousands of yuan, plus labor costs, and the expenditure is in the millions. After the reform, the biggest benefit is that it has independent financial and personnel rights and can be the master of its own house. Give up financial support in exchange for freedom. Running a zoo is essentially not a profitable business. No matter how it is restructured, it has the nature of public welfare and popular science, and requires serving the public as the first purpose. It is not like other industries run by Su Ming, such as fish farming and cruise ships, which also serve the public, but making money is the first purpose. When Su Ming first came to the zoo and took over the zoo in the future, he never thought of making money from the zoo itself. Given the current domestic environment, it would be great if the zoo could break even in the future and have a slight surplus. Su Ming makes money mainly by raising fish in Shuahun Lake and reservoirs, and contracting the zoo business. In addition, the municipal government also proposed an additional condition, to reduce the zoo ticket price to 0.5% of the average monthly income of Yangchuan City residents within 3 years. Thanks to those grandsons of the Statistics Bureau. After learning this news, Su Ming felt for the first time that the average salary he saw every year was still quite cute. The Yangchuan Municipal Bureau of Statistics publishes the average wage of employees in the city in the previous year in the middle of each year. The source of the data, the statistical method, and the truth are unknown anyway. It rises at a constant rate every year. Su Ming also has a fixed salary at the zoo as a leading cotter. He earns less than 3,500 a month. He specifically checked the average wage records released by the Statistics Bureau when he was a junior. It was 3,400 a month. When he was a senior, it was 3,900. When he graduated and started to get a salary, the average wage of all employees was 4,300. In the past, I only felt that my salary was dragging the country down. Now it seems that this kind of frivolous data is not without benefits. At least if it continues to rise at this rate, the zoo ticket price will not increase in 3 years. These are all I can do for you, Old Song continued. Now let's announce the appointment of the new leadership team. I hope the new leadership team can lead the zoo to grow and further improve the material income level of our comrades. According to the general practice of the reform, the original leaders will not change much at the beginning of the reform unless they are appointed by the higher authorities or resign on their own. Old Song is still the director in name, and other positions remain unchanged. There are only 2 changes. The first is that Su Ming is promoted to executive deputy director. The so-called executive has more power than the general deputy position. He is responsible for all affairs or more important affairs in the unit, and presides over daily work. When the director leaves, he will act on behalf of the director. I will retire in half a year. If there is anything in the future, you can directly ask the executive deputy director. If there is any report beyond a level, don't blame me for criticizing him. Old Song made a joke and continued to announce the next appointment. The party secretary Lao Chen took the initiative to resign. His current physical condition makes him unable to do anything. Before the reform, it is no problem to hang a sinecure and muddle through. But now that the system has been reformed, it would be inappropriate for him to continue to hang around in this job. Super Zoo. Author, Yin Seg Nian Bai. Chapter 270. After reporting to the higher-level party organization and receiving approval, Sister Tong took over as party secretary. She also served as the office director, cooperating with Su Ming's work and becoming his deputy. Before the zoo was restructured, the party committee was a somewhat neglected existence. After the restructure, its importance was further reduced. Its main job was to organize labor unions and be responsible for employee welfare. Su Ming, you will preside over the next meeting. Old Song nodded to Su Ming and pushed the microphone to him. The restructuring does not mean that the zoo will become Su Ming's private property. In addition to running his own property and contracting projects, his current task is one more, which is what Director Song said, to expand the zoo and improve it. Income of zoo employees. The nature of the two is different. In the zoo, Su Ming is similar to a manager, receiving salary and dividends. In his own industry, Su Ming is the owner of a private enterprise. However, both of them have advantages that the other does not have, and they can definitely learn from each other's strengths and promote each other. When Director Song was speaking just now, most of the employees below were still a little nervous. It was not that they were afraid of Director Song, but that Director Song had been a leader for many years, and with his age, he naturally had an air of majesty. They have always been worried. Director Song mentioned the topic of future personnel recruitment. According to usual practice, some grassroots employees will definitely be eliminated after the restructuring. When it was Su Ming's turn to speak, the employees relaxed a lot. By the same token, it was not because they underestimated Su Ming. On the contrary, because Su Ming had always brought surprises to the zoo, over time, everyone was attracted to Su Ming. He felt confident that no bad news would come out of Su Ming's mouth. Since the director has left this matter to me, let me first talk about the things that everyone is most concerned about. Su Ming would sometimes chat with the employees during this period, and he probably knew what everyone was thinking. At most, they were worried. Future work issues. Hearing what he said, the employees below all laughed, and Su Ming also said with a smile, "There are rumors that there will be layoffs." Before he could finish speaking, all the laughter below disappeared in an instant. Looking at everyone's nervous expressions, Su Ming waved his hand. "What's the hurry? It's just rumors. After other units are reorganized, they will indeed lay off people, like the zoo. In this way, if you can't make ends meet, theoretically, Laying off people is a way to save money, and it's the only way to save money. However, in my opinion, if you want to save money, you don't have to consider layoffs. Personally, I can't save much money. Secondly, you are all old employees of the zoo and have rich experience. No matter who leaves, it will be difficult for someone to take over the work he is responsible for a while. Others, if you want to get familiar with that job and get started smoothly, it will definitely take a lot of energy and time, which is also an invisible loss. It's better not to be laid off. The employees below couldn't help but nodded slightly. Su Ming's words had reached their hearts. When he said the last 4 words, the employees felt completely relieved. Not only will we not lay off employees, Su Ming continued, I will give you another reassurance, and the current income will not be reduced. If what I said just now made everyone feel relieved, this sentence made everyone present relax. Isn't this the same as if there was no restructuring? So as soon as Su Ming finished speaking, there was a commotion below, and the employees were laughing and whispering to each other. Director Song didn't say anything, but looked at Su Ming thoughtfully. Lao Song is not good at politics, but it does not mean that he does not understand politics. Whether a company can be run well and how to employ people are very important knowledge. If you want to lead such a large team, you must not just rely on some favors. Hello everyone, everything is about human relations. If you can't save face, it will only be counterproductive in the end. Sure enough, after Su Ming and other employees discussed for a while, he stopped smiling slightly and spoke again in a calm but not relaxed tone. Everyone, we are not laying off people. Part of the reason is what I just said, but more importantly, it is because we are all old comrades. We have worked hard in the zoo for so many years without any credit. I am a young man who has only been in the zoo for a short time, for half a year. Everyone has been very supportive and taken care of me during this period, and I will keep it in my heart. His face straightened, but everyone has seen the financial situation of the zoo. Without the government's financial support, we are losing money every month. The little money on the account cannot last long. It needs to be returned to the government year by year. At present, if the balance of payments cannot be achieved within 1 year at most, the zoo will fall into a very embarrassing situation. To put it bluntly, if we don't work hard, we will be ready to file for bankruptcy in 1 year. At that time, if I don't work as the deputy director, there will still be reservoirs and other industries. But everyone, don't ask for any salary. Whether you can keep this job is still a matter of debate. Su Ming's words were, on the one hand, a vaccination to create a sense of urgency among employees. On the other hand, they were a foreshadowing for what he was going to say next. There were many mature and prudent people in the zoo who heard what Su Ming meant and waited quietly for him to continue. The old director of the security department nodded and said in a deep voice, what Deputy Director Su said is reasonable. Restructuring an enterprise's opportunities are also challenges. If we do it well, everyone's income will increase, but if we do it poorly, we won't be able to keep our jobs. That's what I mean. Su Ming nodded to the old director, and then said, since it is an enterprise, it is no longer a stable job. Whether the enterprise is good or not is related to everyone's vital interests. If one person has a problem, it will harm the interests of everyone. In the past, violations of rules and regulations could be laughed off, but in the future, I am afraid that it will not work. Rewards should be given, and punishments should be punished. The more you work, the more you get, the less you work, the less you get, and no work will be given. Sister Tong has already drafted the specific rules and regulations and incentive plans. After the drafting is completed, it will be discussed and announced. Hearing Su Ming's words, people in the conference room had different ideas. People who are sensible think that this is reasonable. Reform is the general trend and no one can stop it. From the current point of view, it seems that some casual freedom will be given up, and the work will be more intense than before, but from a long-term perspective, this is the most basic requirement for an enterprise to survive. Many people even support Su Ming's statement. Zoo employees actually have a lot of free time. They can do more work. They can work more or less, and the salary is the same. Naturally, no one is willing to work more. There were also a small number of people who didn't agree with Su Ming's words. Most of them were old hands who were used to the comfort of the zoo. They were usually sneaky and sly. They disappeared when they were carrying the load. They fought for the benefits when there was a chance. They were lazy and didn't want to work, but they wanted to eat more and take more. Of course, these people were a minority after all. Although they felt that the new director was too strict and didn't give them a good life, it was a general meeting of the whole zoo after all, and Su Ming was speaking as a leader for the first time. Although they were dissatisfied, they were not stupid enough to show it, let alone jump out as a target at this time. Old Song sat in the back with a blank expression. It was hard to tell what he was thinking, but he was very satisfied with Su Ming's 2 words. The zoo was restructured and young leaders came to power. People's hearts were inevitably floating. Su Ming first said that he would not lay off people and maintain the current salary, which stabilized the overall situation, united the vast majority of people, ensured a smooth transition, and also showed a strong sense of humanity. Then he presented facts and reasoned, set the tone for the future work of the zoo, and established the authority that leaders should have. The meeting was not long and ended at noon. After having lunch in the canteen, all the staff of the zoo, including the former secretary Chen who had just woken up, came to the main entrance of the zoo to take pictures and put an end to this public institution that has gone through more than 20 years of ups and downs and opened a new chapter. There were people coming and going at the entrance of the zoo. Seeing a large group of people with zoo badges gathered together to take pictures, I thought the zoo was holding some celebration activities. I came up to ask out of curiosity, and then I knew that the zoo was restructured. For ordinary people, whether the zoo is restructured or not has nothing to do with them. Even if it goes bankrupt, it will be managed by another company, which will not affect their lives at all. They can eat, sleep, and play as usual. It was the fact that a group of zoo leaders and employees took a group photo that attracted the attention of some tourists. To put it bluntly, it's just to watch the excitement. Usually, when you come to the zoo, you see the animals. Now, seeing a large group of behind-the-scenes people gathered here, and there are banners and colorful platforms prepared by the zoo in advance at the gate, you can't help but stop and take out your mobile phone to take pictures. But gradually, tourists found that the zoo's restructuring this time seemed different from the restructuring of other units. What's the difference? For units like the zoo, which obviously can't make any money, or even units that will definitely lose money after the restructuring, if they encounter restructuring, it will be a real catastrophe, more tragic than the death of their own mothers and parents. Even those units that can balance their income and expenditure, or even make a little money, after the restructuring, everyone has a depressed expression. It's strange not to be depressed when the iron rice bowl is gone. The very few units that can really make money are restructured. Even if they are happy in their hearts, they hide it on the surface, for fear that others will say how much money their units have and cause trouble. Therefore, the restructuring of general units is relatively low-key, with few ceremonies. Even if there is, it is done in a hurry, and people take pictures and leave. The more deserted the scene is, the better, and the more miserable the expressions of the employees present are, the better. However, the restructuring of Yangchuan Zoo is completely different. Gradually, it really looks like a celebration. It took a while to line up, take pictures, and take photos. During this time, cars carrying large flower baskets kept driving in from outside, and well-dressed people got off the cars and asked the workers to carry the flower baskets to the zoo gate. Congratulations to Yangchuan Zoo for its great success and prosperity. Yangchuan Yuliyuan Catering Co., Limited. Warm congratulations to Yangchuan Zoo for its successful business and prosperity. Yangchuan Fishery Association. Friendship is based on righteousness, and wealth is earned through morality. Congratulations from Jiyazai Museum. Soon, a large row of flower baskets were placed at the door. As a result, the zoo staff could not leave immediately after taking photos. Directors Su Ming and Song, along with their employees, came to express their gratitude to the people who came to congratulate. Most of these people were well-known enterprises and private institutions in the city, but then, even government units sent flower baskets. Congratulations to Yangchuan Zoo for its successful restructuring and smooth transformation and upgrading. Yangchuan Agriculture and Forestry Bureau. Material civilization is leading, and spiritual civilization is strong. District Party Committee Organization Department. Another one came from a faraway place and presented a large banner, "Thank you, General Manager Su, for leading the villagers to get rich." Sunsan Town Government, Moxie County. More and more people came to the zoo gate. The zoo staff were surrounded by a large group of entrepreneurs and government leaders or staff. The tourists who were watching were even more reluctant to leave. This was the first time they had seen such a reform. It was obviously a disaster, but it was done in a joyous manner, and so many people came to congratulate. Even Wang Jianxi, who had appeared frequently on TV recently, came. Among the tourists of the zoo, there were many who were concerned about politics. Now it was rumored in Yangchuan City that Director Wang might be promoted to deputy mayor soon. The important people from the business and political circles had all arrived. This was not a small zoo reform. If you didn't know, you would think it was the opening of a large company. But on second thought, it was the same thing. Isn't the zoo reform the opening of a company? So many people came to congratulate, which only showed that they were very optimistic about the prospects of the zoo. Immediately afterwards, another tourist bus came, and a large group of people got off and took photos on the stage. I didn't see them sending any flower baskets and banners, but they were all received by Su Ming himself. Su Ming was like a leader, queuing up to shake hands with this group of people. "Yeah, brother, are you here for a trip?" someone asked. "No, I'm from Yangchuan City." "Oh, some of them are local, some are from other places." After asking, I found out that these are all the winning fans of the zoo's Weibo. The zoo pays for everyone to come to Yangchuan City for a free one-day tour, including food and accommodation, and each person will also receive a discount card for the zoo ticket. Free? Is there such a good thing? Didn't you join the official Weibo? It says that the zoo will hold various activities in the future. Last time, Su Ming was still thinking about what gifts to give. It happened to be the time for the reform, so he just spent some money and invited all the winning fans to the zoo to have fun, and promote the zoo, by the way, killing two birds with one stone. The entrance of the zoo was almost blocked. A row of cars coming to congratulate were parked on the roadside not far away. The tourists coming in and out did not leave, and gathered around to watch the excitement. The stage where the ceremony was held was full of people, and there was no place to stand. The cars passing by the foot of the mountain slowed down one after another, and some simply stopped, stretched their necks and looked over here curiously, and didn't know what happened. If the businessmen and government officials came, it would just be a blast, but not far away, a row of monks suddenly came and made the crowd explode. Aren't those monks from Daiwan Temple? The one leading them is the old abbot Huaneng. Daiwan Temple is not an ordinary small temple. It is the largest temple in Yangchuan City and is well known throughout the province. Abbot Huaneng is a well-known figure in the religious world. Although he usually performs rituals to make money, he rarely goes out of the temple. As for the abbot leading the team, it is even rarer.